ThinkTech, raising public awareness about technology, energy, globalism, and diversification. As part of the ThinkTech series, this is the Arts in Hawaii. I'm Donna Blanchard. I'm the Managing Director of Kumukuhua Theater, and I am here today with Eden Lee Murray. I'm sorry, I almost forgot your name. And we're going to talk about art at the Hawaii Theater in Hawaii. Remember that we broadcast live on the internet at 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock every weekday. All of our shows are streamed on Ustream.tv and Spreaker.com. And if you want links to our live shows or previous broadcasts, just go to thinktechhawaii.com. And if you want to join us in our downtown studio for any of the shows, just write to j@thinktechhawaii.com. Eden Lee Murray is a theater educator, the director of education at the Hawaii Theater, a published author, an actor, director, and a producer.
And a very happy mother, stepmother, and wife.
And wife.
That all comes in there too.
Say hello to Roger.
Hello, Roger.
Okay, now that we did that,
I promised I wouldn't.
Continue. So let's talk about right now what you're doing at the Hawaii Theater with the children.
Okay.
You have built an entire curriculum.
I have. As education director, I stepped into a job that has 4 years ago in 2009 when I started it. There were already many moving parts because it's a one-person department, so I have to administer it, I have to market it. I was offered the chance early on to work at home, which is what my predecessor, Hester Kamen, had done. And I thought about it, and I thought, no, you know what, if you're going to be part of a team, if you're going to work on a team, you have to be on the team, you've got to be there to be able to intersect, to know the operations staff, to know the admin staff, etc. So you're always managing relationship or responding to relationship. I stepped into the job that had the group of high school kids, the Hawaii Theater Young Actors Ensemble, which is anywhere from, we've had as few as 13 and as many as 26 come from all over the island to work with me 2 times a week for 2 hours after school, 4:30 to 6:30 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's a big commitment.
Twice a week, yeah, that's
not
great.
A drama club. They have to focus, right? So I structure that. I added 8 master classes. So the fall semester, I'll just give you we'll do this layer at a time. So this is the Hawaii Theater Young Actors Ensemble. It's kind of my happy place for the job. Although it's a job with many happy places. Anyway, the kids, for the fall, they alternate. We have just basically ensemble building stuff the first couple of sessions, and then they lam into 8 master classes. We have Tony does a stage combat, Tony Bisculi does a stage combat, Paul Mitri of UH teaches a brilliant class, Introduction to Mask. He teaches a class in, each of the master classes are 2 hours. He teaches a class in what are techniques for performing Shakespeare, making Shakespeare accessible. There's a class in voice for theater that Yvonne Iverson is going to teach us this year. And Breeden is going to teach a class in the mastery of physical comedy, clowning from the broad to the very subtle. I know I'm forgetting. Oh, Burton White is going to give a master class in audition, which is Burton's the director of the Hawaii Theater and manager and artistic director. And I don't know how many Broadway auditions he's watched. So for him to take time off to teach our kids what the people at the other side of the table are thinking and what they look for is just invaluable. So the kids get 8 of those, and interleaved with that, I introduce short Shakespeare scenes, which they then, when they're not in master classes, they take what they've learned in the master classes and they put it straight to work in pairs. And these are scenes that go up right before Christmas at the Hawaii Theater. Oh. And their families, their friends get a chance to see kind of where they disappear to on Tuesdays and Thursdays. From that, I get a chance to see who works well with who does what. I don't give homework, it's not an academic class, but I'll suggest things like free writing, like journaling, like create a collage of something what does your character look like? Create a musical montage of the music that they would listen to. So there's plenty of work that they can do outside, and I know the ones who do it outside because it just surfaces in the work. Then they go up, and after I've seen them work and watched them perform when the chips are down, I cast whatever Shakespeare we do in the spring. Our first was Twelfth Night, we did As You Like It. We did Macbeth 2 years ago, and a really wonderful Hamlet this year. And this spring it'll be Much Ado About Nothing. So that's that.
Those are all high school students.
Those are all high school students.
From all over the island,
yep.
From any schools, and then some homeschooled.
And some homeschoolers, right.
Kids as well. How do they find out about it?
Our publicist, Melly Poshariva, sends out newsletters. I send blasts out to teachers. We have advertisements in the media, like midweek, like this Star Bulletin Star Advertiser now.
Okay, so you have
so
friends.
We try, yeah. And there's the audition notice in the various papers. So they see that from there, and then their friends talk. They tell friends, and friends tell friends. And what's interesting, we were talking a little bit beforehand about the way the program seems to be growing organically, is after that first year, when parents started calling saying, well, our high schooler is way too busy right now, but we have a middle schooler, what have you got for middle school? And I would say, gosh, nothing. And I got tired of saying nothing, so I started a middle school program for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And that's creative dramatics, theater games, improvisation, performance skills, basically life skills, and you get the kids to build confidence and come and have a safe place every week to play. That's once a week, not quite so intense. But because I know what I'm moving them in towards, there's a plan here. What I teach is what I want them to have an understanding of if they want to move on up into the Shakespeare. And then that worked for 3 years, and then this year I had a cadre of kids who they were ready to age out of junior, but they weren't ready for the commitment of high school. So I'm creating the intermediate ensemble, which is for 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds who they don't have to have come from the junior ensemble. They can come from anywhere around here but have had some experience with theater. So I'm not starting fresh with them.
Okay.
We're going to use things like, we'll start with text analysis, we will do improvisation and games and stuff still, because I think it's a great icebreaker and an ensemble builder. But they'll start now working with a sentence. Okay, what do you want to do with the sentence? What's the verb you're playing? What is your intention? And then move into a short monologue, and then from that into maybe a short scene. Again, still working on creating character. It's not just about performance, it's all the stuff that goes into that. And basically, the golden rule for all the stuff, or my approach to teaching, is it's stuff I wish someone had told me when I was their age.
Yeah.
I'm
How,
trying
what an amazing benefit for the kids to be able to use those thinking skills. I think that as a performer, we have to get inside the heads of some very awful women. I'm sure you have, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf always comes to mind. When you play a role like that, you have to understand
Lady Macbeth.
Lady Macbeth, why someone would do those horrible things, what could possibly make that what they believe is the right thing to do, or the only thing they can do. And when you develop that thinking skill, that is an interrelational skill that helps you see everybody around you, at least to some extent, if you try from the inside.
Absolutely.
At least to know that there is a motivation there. That person is trying hard the same as I am, so what is making it okay for them to do what I think is despicable?
Right, and well, two things come to mind. One, kids starting into theater just think it's there or it's not there. It's like a performance they don't understand the layering and the decisions and the choices and all that business. And so one of the things, it was a class last year, I was explaining exactly what you're going to. Why do you do what you do? And somebody said, well, what if you're playing a really bad character? I said, as an actor, you can never judge your character. You are the only advocate that character has on earth. You have to understand just what you're saying, exactly why they're doing what they're doing, and you have to believe in it and fight for it 100%. And what's really interesting is when you're talking about a villain, it makes it way scarier. If someone's playing something sort of and winking with the audience and going, well, we know this is a bad person, so you can go ahead and hate me, it's not nearly as scary as like, you know why I'm doing this. It's a good thing, yeah. Okay. Like Iago is just all over that,
Yeah. Yeah. So. Welcome to the dark side. What's the Debbie Allen, the woman who wrote the book The Dark Side of the Light Chasers? Have you ever?
I don't know that.
That's an excellent book for actors to read. She wrote several. The Dark Side of the Light Chasers. I think it's Debbie Allen. Wonderful woman, just passed away a few months ago. But it's I think a wonderful step. I wish I would have read it earlier in my acting career to understand that then you discover all of this internal mechanism of Lady Macbeth. And then you have to accept that I can understand that because a little bit of that lives inside me. a little bit of that lives inside everyone,
Yeah.
and it's okay. It's what we choose to connect to and how we choose to identify
Right.
that matters. But the world is far bigger than we want to admit, because we want to be the good guy all the time.
Well, what's interesting too, when you start kids down the line thinking about that and choices and stuff, well, the young lady last year who came up to me after that particular class and said, I never thought, I had no idea. She wound up playing Gertrude in her Hamlet last year. And she was, you know, you read all the research and so much that's written historically bills Gertrude as a ditz, as an airhead, as a selfish, as a, and she said, I don't want to, I can't play that. I said, you're right, and you're not gonna. And she said, there's guilt because maybe she didn't really love Hamlet's father. Maybe she really preferred the handsomer uncle who didn't go off to do politics but took care of her while the king was being a king. And so she's already leaning, anyway, she just found so many subtle justifications for the choices she made, and then was able to follow how it impacted her relationship with Hamlet through the play. And it was subtle, it was a beautifully shaded, she did a beautiful job with the role.
And that's what we as audience members love to watch, is those subtleties that we clue into because we relate.
Yes.
Somehow.
Yes.
We relate to them. And you can't relate to a piece of cardboard.
True that. True that. But then, you know, something else is what's interesting about it, the choices again. I have to have a conversation yet that hasn't happened, but the young man who played our Hamlet was just an exquisite scholar. He took it, we met on Sunday afternoons extra starting in January all the way through April just to work the text, just to work. I may have shortened the play, but I didn't touch a syllable of his soliloquies, because I said, Michael, if you're going to play Hamlet, you will be able to say you played Hamlet, you know. As they said in, was it slings and arrows, the rest is just fill, but you got to have those soliloquies, right? So he did a beautiful job. Now he's playing for the Shakes Fest over at Mark's Garage. He's going to close in As You Like It this weekend, playing Sylvius. Now, Sylvius is a bit of a clown. He's a clown. He's one of the dearest characters in the canon, right? I went to see their preview, and I came back, I said, you know, Michael, you have to take him and what he wants, and his pain, and his, all that business, as seriously as you took Hamlet. It's, and especially if you're funny, it's not funny if you think you're funny.
Right.
Yeah. And someone who just pines and aches for this sassy little Phoebe, if he really Hamletianly aches for Phoebe, then it's funny.
Then we're going to laugh at the poor fool. I'm hoping to see that tonight.
Oh, good. I'd be curious to hear what you think of it.
Looking for your student. Do you ever have any of your...
Three of them.
Three of them.
The Gertrude is playing Celia, and she's gorgeous. She, again, for a role that's usually a sidekick, you know, she's sort of Rosalind's buddy, wingman, whatever you want. She's fabulous. It's subtle, it's shaded, it's nuanced, and it's dear.
Oh, well, that's the role.
Yeah.
If you ask me.
Really? Well, she ran with it. And then we've got one other of my former students is playing Audrey. So, but Tony, bless his heart, he will pay attention to them. He knows them because he does Tony Pasculi does the stage combat classes, and then any fight choreography during the year he'll come in and do for us. So he gets to know the kids, and he's very good about bringing them in.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm so excited that they're finishing the canon, and looking forward to seeing that, and just being in the room, you know, for that to happen. Do you ever get any of your students calling on you for advice after they've left?
Yes.
Have you had that happen?
Yes, and I'm happy to give it. Happy because it's the fellow who played our Macbeth, who aged out, Dylan Pilger, wonderful actor, but he's also a musician. He's got other things, and he was trying to figure out whether to go with an agent, whether to go commercial, and he just said, I need to talk to you. I don't, and we had several conversations about what's the way to pursue, and it's so hard as a young performer. I only have my own. I thought that there was one way to do things in the world, and you know, and a contract was a contract, and it's all malleable. You know, there are escape clauses, and you can say, you know, I can't really live with that, or so what I try to do with them after is just open eyes to possibilities, you know, and just think outside the box a little bit. And it's not one way because it has to be one way. You can go beyond or think around it, or
Yeah. Well, yeah, and especially when you're young, a lot of people well into their life still believe that everything has one way, that that it needs to be done, how nice for them to have a mentor that they can call on to ask about it.
And just don't assume that the older ones know it all. You know, the rule makers are not, they're not, what's the word, infallible. You know, you can challenge them.
Yeah, and sometimes challenging a person is exactly what you need in the relationship with them. It'll breed respect. We're going to take a break just for a moment. I'm Donna Blanchard of Kumukuhui Theater. I'm talking with Eden Lee Murray of the Hawaii Theater on the Arts in Hawaii on ThinkTech. We'll be right back.
We want to thank our underwriters.
Hawaiian Electric Company and its affiliates Maui Electric on Maui and Hawaii Electric Light Company on Hawaii Island are deeply committed to the communities they serve.
Galen Ho is a senior executive of BAE Systems, a global defense, security, and aerospace company.
The High-Tech Development Corporation, the state's leading technology agency, attached to the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism.
Castle and Cook Hawaii, with a time-honored legacy that spans more than 160 years and revolves around its mission of investing in Hawaii, creating communities, and providing for the needs of our state.
Hawaii Gas, formerly the Gas Company, a proponent of the Liquefied Natural Gas Initiative, helping Hawaii achieve its transition to clean energy and a better energy future.
Collateral Analytics, a Hawaii-based tech company empowering the real estate industry with greater and faster access to the tools and data they need to make better informed property investment decisions.
I'm Nicole Horry. Thanks so much for joining us on ThinkTech.
I'm Maria Kashem. See you next time.
Hi, we're back and we're live. I'm Donna Blanchard. This is the Arts in Hawaii on the ThinkTech Hawaii series, and I'm talking with Eden Lee Murray of the Hawaii Theater. So we were just talking about your high school students. Let's go to the intermediate students. So the high school students are really able to get into the muck and mire of motivations and emotions and slings and arrows and all of this. Where are you able to go with intermediate students?
Well, let me leapfrog back to what came next, which was when the middle school group came along, and I just began to play with ensemble dynamics. And some of these kids, what's really interesting to me is, you know, the parents are very keen when they call about making, because I don't ask, the little ones don't have to audition. I just ask if the parents bring them in for an informal interview. And inevitably, a parent will say, you know, my child has been in this, and this, and he's the live wire, he's doing impressions all over the house. I'm going, oh dear Lord. Good. Can you listen? You know, so one of the first things I work on with them, and I've had a couple of cases of chronic interrupters that it's taken me a year to work on. The first thing they do when they come into class, before we even have our ritual opening, everybody comes from very different places on the island and in school or homeschool or in their life, and so they just have a moment in the circle to check in. And I do this with all my groups, but it's interesting to watch what happens with the little ones, right? Because when it's their turn, well, so many little issues. Sometimes a kid is great at trying to steal and grab the focus when somebody else is holding forth, like a teacher, like another kid. But when the spotlight is on him, they get all plugged up, and it's like, so it teaches. One of the things I'm trying to teach the little ones is, you know, as an actor, it's way easier to get out there and ta-da. That's fun. That's gravy, right? But to be a really good actor, the ta-da comes from what you've just heard someone say. It's you listen, and you have to really pay attention, because what you hear hits something in here that brings forth, whether it's a ta-da, whether it's a ooh, whether your reaction has to come off of what you've just heard,
actually heard,
received, yeah. And that's another thing that's interesting, because kids of any age, not just kids, actors in general, tend to take front. You know, it's like, it's all about me, it's me, it's look at me, and my line is great, my friends are watching me. You know, it's not about that. It's about carrying the story. It's about doing whatever you can. And the story, if here's person here, and here's person here, talk, the story's happening here. It's the energy between the people and what it happens, you know, as it transforms, right? And from the little kids on, I try to have them pay attention to each other, respond to each other, And then we move forward in games and improv and stuff with them. And then from there, and this is a new thing this year, the intermediate class, I'll take what the ones who are moving along have learned and then build on that with an eye to where they're going to be going if they choose to keep going into the Shakespeare. So there's a phrase for that. Not clever little plan, but agenda. It's my agenda.
Your agenda.
Yeah.
Well, you have to, right? And it sounds like, I'm so happy to hear everything that you're saying, because I've seen teachers who, there's a lot of money to be made in teaching acting to kids.
Exploiting.
Because every parent out there, no, not every, a lot of parents are sure that their little darling is going to be a star someday. And it's very easy to take their money.
Yeah.
And not really give them a good education. And I've seen the results of what happens when the kids are taught to care about themselves only. And I've seen the results of students who are taught to think, and taught how to think about how their character thinks, and how their character feels, and how their character feels about that other person that they're on stage with, and what they want from them, and all of these skills that you're giving them. How nice to hear.
Well, that's also what you're talking about. How many of the kids that I'm working with are going to go on professionally? I don't know, and I frankly don't care, because what I'm trying to do with them is working with the artists holistically, so that regardless of what path they choose, I mean, yes, I'd love to see somebody go off and make a success, but when I was little, I guess I wanted to be an actress since I watched my mother. I mean, from 2 years old on, right? That was just what I knew I wanted to do. But when it was a question of formulating ambitions, I wanted to go as far as I could, work with the best people, do good work with really good people. How am I going with that? The idea is, I look at the people who are in the limelight today and who have made it, and with very few exceptions, I wouldn't want that life for anything. And the things that you have to give up to full-on, single-viewedly, that's not a word, but they're single-mindedly pursue that. It's a very selfish career. You know, my agent, my resume, my headshots, my pictures, enough about me. How do you like my shoes? You know, it's like very, very self-centered, and that doesn't set up well for life relationships. You know, for quality life, really. You know, so.
Well, I have to say, I think that it's like any career. It's a hard-fought career to get into, and several of my friends are still working as actors that I started with in college, and I think that selfishness has to be there for a time. The same as it does with a very ambitious investment banker. Okay. You know, who's going to spend all of that time? It is different in that this is our instrument.
Right.
So taking care of this instrument and clothing it, you know, haircuts are tax deductible. You know, it makes you think about things differently. Yeah. And I think to some extent, that relationship can be built with a significant other, with a partner, as long as the understanding is there, and hopefully that other person needs to have, you know, their own drive, maybe in another direction, to support. And you slug through all of that to get to the point where you work with in integrity, and you're known for doing that. Yeah. And I'm sure that you've seen that. I'm sure that you've seen through the path that you've chosen, you're in a place in your life where you take the roles, audition for the roles that you're interested in playing, because it's a good challenge for you, and you want to work with the people who are involved in it.
What's interesting, sadly, I mean, my happy place truly is either directing or teaching. And what I find ironic is the older I get, the more I know what I'm doing, and I've learned so much more about acting by directing and by teaching. It's like, oh, so that's what indicating is. Oh, got it. That's what I mean by silence is powerful. Oh, I see. Stillness. Just don't move. You don't need to move. Just hold still. That is really, but it's been sort of like an hourglass image. I mean, my need to be on stage, to be performing, to be dribbles into the bottom, and the sand is now in my need to work with kids and to help and to teach. That's what I really loved. I don't, and it's just ironic that as I get to where I kind of know what I'm doing now, I just don't need to go out and do it.
Well, isn't that something? Maybe that's what it was all about.
Maybe.
Yeah. You're born to it. I really think that good educators are born to it.
Oh.
I can teach adults, but I get intimidated so easily by a group of children.
Really?
Especially when you get little girls in that 12, 13, 14, when they get at PAX. I can't.
You mean when the claws come out?
Yeah, they intimidate me. I don't want to. It's very difficult for me to be involved in that. So if you are able to give those children this gift, I think you have to be. I know that you've done a lot of hard work throughout your life, and you have done a lot of deconstructing of the art to get to that point that you can deliver this to the students. It is also something that has to be born within you, that you love it so much.
That's so funny. You know, when the first time I taught, the thing that scared me more than anything is remembering, well, there's a wonderful metaphor. Memory is like a small child on a beach. You never know which pebble they're going to pick up and treasure, right? I think of the damage that a careless remark or a thoughtless remark or something just tossed off, you're too fat to play that role. The damage that can be done is terrifying. That scares me, you know. So when I do a little bit of a meditation before I come into any class, and I just ask for cleansing and to come from the cleanest possible place to work with these other souls. You know, I mean, it's when I teach the kids, I happen to believe that theater, acting in particular, is a fundamentally spiritual process, because you, and again, that's why I hate look at me actors, right? Your job is to be the conduit for another human being, to understand them, to create them, to let them into you, to get out of the way so they can tell their story. And that can be heard and honored, even the bad guys, right? And so, anyway, that's what I mean when I say I think it's important to come from the cleanest possible place.
Oh, yeah. How wonderful. The kids are getting the opportunity to learn that from you. What is the cost for these classes?
I try to keep it as low as possible so that kids who really want to do it aren't. Okay. The high school group is $250 a semester for twice a week. It's 4 hours a week, basically. And then in the spring, they are invited to move into the next semester based on their work and their attitude and their commitment shown first semester, and then that's another $250. So it's $500 from September through May for the older kids. And for intermediate group, again, it's 2 hours once a week and more prep on my part, so just taking time into consideration, it's $350 for the year, right? Again, September through May. And for the junior group, it's an hour and a half, 90 minutes once a week, and that's $250. So I know the other groups in town are not that cheap. You know,
it is exceptionally reasonable. That's when I first moved to Chicago and I started auditioning, someone said, you have to take a class somewhere. Someone needs to get to know you. No one's going to cast you until someone gets to know you. Take a class somewhere. And so I went out and I found the cheapest class I possibly could, and you don't get necessarily the best when you do that.
Right.
Your prices are really wonderful. They're really wonderful. They're really wonderful for like daycare. I mean that in the nicest way. What people are getting for the bang they're getting for that buck is really pretty awesome.
Oh, neat. Well, I think of it as a kind of a lost leader. I mean, and my president, Sarah Richards, bless her heart, who completely supports the program. Wonderful enthusiasm and encouragement for it. But every now and then she'll say, "Now, don't you think we should charge a little more? I mean, what in terms of cost effectiveness for your time?" And I'm going, well, how are we going to put the word out about the Hawaii Theater to youngsters if we price it out of their range? And families in September, they're starting up school, you know.
There's a lot of costs.
Yeah, yes. And I want it to be as accessible as possible. And yet, you have to pay something so that you honor the fact that you are paying for it.
Yes,
you know?
This is true. I'm sorry, we have to take another break.
Already?
We'll be back in just a moment. This is the Arts in Hawaii on ThinkTech Hawaii. We'll be right back.
Aloha. I'm Jay Fidel. This is ThinkTech Hawaii, broadcasting live from the Pioneer Plaza in downtown Honolulu. We raise public awareness about tech, energy, and globalism in Hawaii. Technology is critical to our state. A vibrant tech sector will give us new prospects in the global marketplace and will offer great careers and make our economy more resilient. Streaming live on Ustream and Spreaker, ThinkTech allows its hosts and guests invaluable opportunities to report important events and discuss important questions, and to be heard here in Hawaii and around the world. You can find links to our live streams on thinktechhawaii.com or on our mobile website, m.thinktechhawaii.com. And you can see our archive on YouTube. It's all just a click away. We want to do whatever we can to keep Hawaii relevant, connected, and thriving in the complexity of the 21st century. We hope you will help us in those efforts. Tune in today. This is ThinkTech. I'm Jay Fidel. Mahalo.
We're back and we're live. This is Donna Blanchard on the Arts in Hawaii in the ThinkTech series. I am talking with Eden Lee Murray of the Hawaii Theater. And Eden Lee just asked me about my diction, and I said, that's my mother.
Oh, I didn't ask you. I complimented you.
Thank you
have
very
exquisite diction.
Thank you very much for the compliment. I appreciate it. It was important to my mother that we spoke correctly. So we didn't get a ruler across the knuckles or anything like that if we didn't, but it was brought up to us.
Well, just for a mom quick exchange, my mother, the actress, was very aware that we were in Kansas City, Missouri, where the tends to be twang. You tend to go right through your nose, a little bit flat like that. Now, I never talked like this, but my sister occasionally would, because I was aping my mom for all it was worth, but my sister would come home with a little flat, and in the morning, at the breakfast table, "How now, brown cow, tone." I just think that's funny.
So your mom was an actress?
She was a wonderful actress, yeah.
In New York?
She went to Wellesley College, dropped out after 2 years, like all the other women in my family did. Went to the American Academy of Acting in New York, and this is way back. This was in 1938, and she was from there. She was a member of one of the weekly national radio broadcast ensembles, and now, of course, was not around to listen to this, but she would tell stories about there was a family and then a swing. So the family played all the same roles, and then she would come in and be whoever came into the story that week. So she got to do different voices, different accents, etc. And then from there, they were forming an ensemble to go forward when television broke commercially. When it was going to become for the masses. Well, World War II precluded that, and all of the technological energy went into the war. She went down to Washington, was with the cadre of women who were secretaries, taking all the jobs that the men who were gone overseas had left, right? World War II is over. Her father, then in Kansas City, as fathers then did, said, "I think it's time you came home and settled down." And as daughters then did, she came home and settled down. And she was never far from theater for a long time while I was growing up. Her mother founded the Kansas City Junior League Children's Theater. I have a picture of her handing Walt Disney a check from the Kansas City Junior League Children's Theater.
Oh.
My mother was a children's theater actress. I went before I was in school. I would travel with these bands of ladies from these WPA elementary schools, where the theaters are all on the second floor, and I would I remember this clearly, I was about 3, maybe 4. This is before preschool, right? Before we had preschool. I would be in this room and watch these ladies, one who had a little pregnancy bump, 3 months pregnant, somebody else, and just listening to them talk, and I'd see them get into costume, and I'd see them put the cork makeup on if they were being, hobos or something. And then I'd get to pull the curtain. So I'd be standing backstage waiting for the magic to happen, and I'd see these women that I knew up there in that room, and I'd pull the curtain and the light would hit them and they would transform into something else, and I said, I want that.
Oh, wow.
I wanted that, and I knew that was yeah.
To be exposed at that age and know.
But to be exposed is one thing, to know is something else. My sister, my younger sister, would not have anything to do with my mother until she came out of costume and makeup. She didn't know that lady in the grease paint. Nope, not my family.
the cork, was it, they burned the cork to use it
If there
to
was a
smudge?
hobo, or when my
Yeah.
mother played, she played a little Chinese, this is so politically incorrect, I apologize. She played a little Chinese boy in The Mysterious Dragon, and she had the magic words, Rick T. Shin Tu, and she looked like what a Kansas City lady thought a Chinese boy looked like, with the black brows and the lines out to there, and this mustache that went, well, he must have been a Chinese man.
A man.
Chinese boy, but I mean, she was this puddle of grease paint, yellow grease paint by the end of the show, and I loved it. I loved it.
I think the first time, you know, the smell of the grease paint, the first time I smelled it, I loved it. I loved that
Really?
Ben Nye pancake makeup that you had to wet the sponge.
Yeah.
I loved it from the very beginning. I wasn't exposed to it until high school.
Is that when you fell in love with it?
That's when I fell in love. That's when, I mean, I used to do commercials in the bathroom from like the age of 5. I'd stand in front of the mirror and hold whatever I found in the vanity. I can't believe I just said that.
You gotta come into my class.
I should.
That's one of the improvs.
Oh, really? Oh, my eyes are watering. I can't believe I just said that. Anyway, so let's talk about in the last segment you were saying that the prices are kept very low at the theater.
Mm-hmm.
How is that theater funded? I know we don't want to get to, it's not your job to have to worry about the finances there too much, but I wonder, well then, how do we make sure this wonderful program continues to operate?
We have a lot of wonderful, we call them I'm the beneficiary, so the benefactors, yes. I wish I'd brought a list of all of them, but we have about 14 that every year re-up and they contribute to the education program.
Oh,
And,
how wonderful.
yeah.
Are they on this brochure?
They would be. I should know them by heart. They're more since the brochure came out. ABC Stores, Bretzlaff Foundation, Samuel N. and Mary Castle Foundation, City and County of Honolulu, Friends of Hawaii Charities, Thomas J. Long Foundation, State Foundation on Culture and the Arts through appropriations through the legislature of the state of Hawaii and National Endowment for the Arts. And there are 3 or 4 others that have come in since the brochure was put out. So we're very lucky and they support us wholeheartedly.
Oh, good. That's fabulous. Hi, we're back. We just took a break, and we're going to come back right into our conversation. Eden Lee, you were talking about the theater. Someone in the community brought in a group of people to see if the theater was salvageable.
Yeah, they actually brought somebody in from the mainland, and Sarah Richards was leading the charge about wanting to restore the theater to its original splendor, 1922. This person that they brought in to consult said, yes, it's viable, and I think, and then the people on Sarah's team said, I think you need this building to be up and holding down, it's the linchpin of the neighborhood in Chinatown, right? And so then they closed the theater for 15 years for this extensive renovation, and they really did the number on it. I mean, $40 million, I think. It was just to make it as it was. It looked like Michelangelo's, with the scaffolding and stuff, because it was really beautifully done, exquisitely done, attention to detail. And what I didn't understand when I took this job is that my job, the consequences of those 15 years that it was closed are huge. I thought my job was just to get lots of little butts in seats so children come in and can see beautiful theater, good theater in a lovely place, teach the theater I want to teach, etc. But there's another stripe to that, which is to say, for those 15 years, families did not come down to the Hawaii Theater. It was not built into the fabric of what do we do with our children? We're going to go to the Hawaii Theater this weekend and see what's playing. So now, those who were children, who have children of their own, don't think about it, it's not on their radar, right? Those who were adults at that time and who are now in a position to think philanthropically don't think about the Hawaii Theater because it wasn't part of their growing up fabric. So what I'm doing now is not just teaching kids theater, it's not just showing kids theater, it's trying to build back up a generation of people who will respect and love the Hawaii Theater and take care of it.
Yeah. And make sure. It is a linchpin of downtown. I mean, Kumukuhua is down and around the corner. We're a completely different group. We're a completely different experience. You know, our building was a post office and then it was a courtroom, and now it's historical. It's a little black box theater. It's a completely different experience. The Hawaii Theater is such a jewel to have in, particularly in that area, and look what you have right there. You have Duvan, and you have Epic and you know, all of the Bamboo 2 and all of these wonderful little places. Mark's Garage, right there. Yes, another wonderful experience and incredible work that they do there. Would any of that have happened without the Hawaii Theater?
I'm on the team that would say no.
Yeah.
You know, and that when it's thriving and flourishing, it does everybody good in the neighborhood. And when you mentioned something just about the beauty of it, since I've been in here, I added one more show in the fall to present, and I present for the littlest demographic, the 2 and 3 year olds, like the preschool set. Ohia comes in and does that with us, and
nice.
Reach out to them. And my second year is when I started it, and I was going, now I don't know, because I see these little bitty things. I mean, you look from the back of the theater and it looks empty because their heads are below the chair. You know? But I was, you know, are we reaching too young? And I was talking. I make sure the kids are met as they get off the bus, just so when they arrive at the theater, all the way through their adventure and then back onto the buses, they feel welcome, they feel special, they feel that this is, you know, we're there for them, safe and all. So, and I was out talking as some of the children were waiting to come in for the first Ohia production. I was talking to one of the preschool teachers, and I said, so be honest with me now, you know your kids and you're here, but am I going too young for this? And she looked at me and she said, this is what they need. And she said, look around, and the little kids are doing this with their phones and their apps and stuff, right? And she goes, they need to see this.
They need to experience that.
Oh, bigger than themselves, outside of the little box, right? And I said, thank you, I needed to hear that. And so I took the hand of a little boy that was the leader of the line, 3 years old, and we walk into the theater, go into the lobby, and he's looking around, and we get into the auditorium, and he stopped. He would not go any further, and his eyes were saucers, right? And he said, this is so beautiful. 3 years old. He didn't say neat, cool, keen. He said beautiful.
Wow.
They get it. They get it.
They gave me goosebumps all the way up to my face. That's a good
Welcome
story.
to my job.
Yeah, that's very cool. They still intimidate me when they're 12 and 13-year-old girls, though. You're not going to change my mind on that. I'll tell you what, I didn't grow up going to the theater. I grew up just outside of Chicago, and a trip into Chicago, it was, that was a very expensive journey to take. You know, we weren't accustomed to paying for parking, and then the theater tickets, and then the dinner, and it was a real, I didn't see my first show in a real theater until we were on vacation, and the people we were visiting said, no, we're going to go see a show, and I saw Showboat in a very grand theater. Yeah. And it was my first show, and I was probably 12, and I wanted to get on that stage. It was everything I could do. I thought, I'm going to get in a lot of trouble if I get out of my seat, but I wanted to get on that stage so badly. I was so moved. I just wanted to be a part of what was going on there.
Oh, wow.
And now I see, and the children, I don't have children of my own, but the children in my life, my nieces and nephews, grew up coming to see me in shows and grew up with that in their lives, and just then they make the choice, oh, I want to go see the symphony, oh, I want to go see this show, because it just became a part of their instinct that is a marvelous evening out or afternoon out that you have. And being in that room, experiencing the experience of theater within the community that's in the room with you at that time is an experience like no other. Just last week, someone came in the office at Kumukuhua and said something about they went to see a thriller, one of the scary movies that's out in the movies right now. And I said that I saw Death Trap on Broadway with Christopher Reeves playing the handsome young awful man. And that was the first time I realized, man, something can come up behind you in a theater. You're in it. Yeah. You know, like that experience cannot be duplicated by any other, and thank goodness that you're bringing that to the community. Before, we only have a few minutes left here, and I do want to say that you're a published author.
Yes.
Wally Amos. Is this sort of his cookbook for life, the cookie?
Wally is an amazing fellow with an amazing life and wonderful stories to tell, and he's written his memoir about 5 different ways with 5 different books. And with this one, he decided he would make it a metaphor for what he's famous for, which is the cookie. You know, his whole Wally Famous Amos, the famous Amos chocolate chip cookie. So the title that he had is The Cookie Never Crumbles. And the idea is that chocolate chip cookies are good things, and even if it breaks up, there's still good stuff on the plate. You know, so just because something falls apart doesn't mean you can't pull out of the wreckage, you know, and find the morsels and find the nuts. Well, the nuts, right? Find the chocolate. Just because it falls apart doesn't mean it's gone, or it can't go somewhere good. You know, and so yeah, I ghost wrote that book for him.
So it's called The Cookie Never Crumbles, and it's on Amazon. I don't know if it's in any of the physical bookstores here on the island. Do you know?
I don't know that.
Okay, I know that it's on Amazon.
Okay.
And it looked quite
published by St. Martin's Press, so they can always follow them up to that, and they can find out how to get it, I guess.
So it was, you had conversations with Wally?
Yes.
And
it was like improv. It was very much, it was, Wally had said when we started work together, he said, I want, when people hold that book in their hands and listen to my voice, I want them to feel like I'm in the room with them, like they're holding me in their hands. And so what I would do is just go up to where he was living in Lanikai and listen to him and record him and listen to him and record him, and then go home and get on the exercycle and listen to what I recorded, and then get to the computer and write it. And it was writing in his rhythm and, you know, voice.
And you hear his voice. And if you go to Amazon.com, you can see you can read a little bit of it. I read just a little bit of it. It's really charming. And I'm sorry that we didn't get more of a chance to talk about that, but then everybody's just going to have to read the book, and we'll have to come back for another conversation sometime.
Down with that.
Okay, we're going to wrap up now. I'm Donna Blanchard, Managing Director of Kumukuhui Theater. I've been talking with Eden Lee Murray, of the Hawaii Theater. This is the Arts in Hawaii on the ThinkTech radio series. Thank you very much to our production manager, Ian Davidson, our communications director, Chrissy Guffigan, and to Jay Fidel, who somehow manages to put it all together. And thank you to you, our listeners. We'll see you next week here on the Arts in Hawaii. Aloha.